meeting on Ecotales. Today we'll review tasks 5 and 6, which we'll discuss. And then we move into the next phase of work, which involves further development of the visual story of the animation. So welcome. Let me start just by giving an overview. I'll share my screen so that we can be on the same page. I stop sharing. All right. So this is what we had. Week 1, you can see at the bottom there, you went through everything. Week 2 was really about up here, this first one, integrating the integrated storytelling, where the second one, animation script development, was what you were working on. 1 second. I'm just letting in Nicholas. Please come. All right. So you have the so Nicholas, what I'd request you to do since you've come, you get ready to make a presentation on the storyboard for a couple of minutes, like 2 minutes, 3 minutes. And meanwhile, I'm just going through the work that's been done so far. We'll hear from Purity to understand what she has done, and then I'll go over the work that needs to be done. All right, but I'm going to ask you to also present the storyboard, so that the script, the new version that you've written, so that we can understand the storyboard from the scripting point of view. All right, so I'll introduce that before I go on to the storyboarding. So what's been done was to understand the client's brief. Now, let me go back up just to be clear. This client's brief, this project brief development is very important, because how this thing works is that you have what we say is the requirement by the client. That's what they're willing to pay for. All right. And that requirement is usually a message, and the message is crafted around a need. That need is the client's need, but primarily it is their audience's need. They have an audience. So the client describes to us who their audience is, their target, and the message they want to send to them. And then we come up with a means by which they can motivate their audience to consume their message. That's what this whole interpretation thing is. And that's what exactly the client pays for. The client doesn't pay for other things, however nice they look. They don't pay for anything else. They pay because the target audience is consuming this message, right? And that's why it's the beginning point, and that's why we want to start by interpreting. First of all, asking what is the brief, and the brief should bring out clearly who the target audience is, and then of course, what is the problem, and that problem, in a positive sense, can be a transformation. In this case, it's a transformation. The client wants to transform the attitudes of the audience educationally, so that they can behave differently. So they're looking for behavioral change. All right. So that's the challenge. And then, of course, comes now what we can say is the solution. In our case, the solution is going to be an animation that is providing the transformation and behavioral change that the client wants. So that's really what the crux of this thing is. That's the crux. And now everything we do aligns itself to that. So we need to be specific. I've spoken generally. So we've said the client wants to transform the attitudes and behavior of Generation Z. That's, you can say, 13 to 27-year-olds or 28-year-olds. They want to transform their understanding and also their behavior as far as littering is concerned, so that they manage and control waste disposal within their neighborhoods. All right? That's what the client sees as the goal, is to change their thinking and their behavior. So thinking is the knowledge. They need to have understanding of, you can argue, the advantage of having a different and a particular way of littering or managing garbage. That's what they want. So that educational component is one. Number two is the activism. They want these uh, they want to see in the behavior of Generation Z, 13 to 28-year-olds, a change in behavior that is proactively using, let's say, garbage and litter in a way that is consistent or helpful and preserving to the environment. In fact, the key word is preserving. They want to preserve the environment. So, whatever littering or garbage disposal method that's being used should be in harmony with that. That's the kind of activism they want. And when we say activism, what I mean is that they themselves should be the carriers of the message in the end. They should see people who are maybe breaking the rules and ask them to conform to the rule rather than litter. Um, they should be mindful of how they handle their garbage. And then beyond that, they should also be part of the process of garbage disposal in meaningful ways. Okay, so that's the activism that it's now translated into action. All right, that's the main message, and we can never deviate from it because the moment we deviate from it, the client starts to move away from us. Now, the second thing we do is to develop a device for carrying the message, and the device that we're using is animation. Um, but even when I say animation, what I really mean is it's a visual story based on movement or simulated movement. So that's where we are. So animation has its steps, and one of the things that we want to uh, agree on is the visuals, and we want to agree on the visuals thematically. That's what we want. All right. So thematically, there are several things. On one hand, you can say is the characters and their wardrobe, the way they're dressed, the way they are colored, and the way they look, and the way they present themselves visually. All right. So that's one aspect of the visuals. Another aspect of the visuals is the, you can say, environment. We need to agree on backgrounds, middle ground objects also, and the general feeling of the ambience of the where it's staged. So we have a sense of what the entire scenes or even let's say acts will feel like. We need to create that feeling both for nighttime, daytime. Um, that is important for us to tell the story with context. All right. Now, just for discursive purposes, the feeling around this entire thing is garbage. So we need to create that sense. And in fact, the overall feeling is garbage is a problem. So we need to create this ambience of garbage being a problem. We need to do that. Once we create that feeling that garbage is a problem, we're on point. The ultimate outcome is utopian or ecotopian, where we're saying that the garbage is now gone and now we have a good world. It's a good world to live in, a good society to live in. That's the ultimate, that's the outcome. Okay? So it's important to immerse our characters and our story, our viewers, into the problem and then move them through it to a point where they come out of it. That way, we reinforce what the client wants. The messaging is consistent in terms of what the client is expecting and what they want to pay for. Okay. All right. So we've done, at least in terms of the work we've done, you see, week 2 here, we're looking at the script development, writing the animation story, the dialogue, the actions. This is where I need, Nicholas, for you to present your story, to tell us what it is in 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Then we move on to week 3, where we do the character design. So that purity you'll present to us to show us the how you've created characters that make sense for the animation, and at the same time show us their poses, their expressions, so that we can appreciate them. Right? Now, the storyline is part of the narrative treatment, the drama, but the characters is part of the visual storytelling. But the rest of the visual storytelling is here in week 4. We come to storyboarding. Yeah. But before we come to storyboarding, I want to intercede with something here. I didn't put it, but just before we get into storyboarding, I'd like us to produce mood boards, which will give us a sense of the backgrounds that we're talking about, so that when we talk of visually having a context surrounded by garbage, we have a mood board to guide that. So we can point to that. All right. And based on the story, because we don't have a storyboard yet, so based on the story, we should have a sense of the scenes from a background's perspective. These are just photos. They can also be drawings. It's okay. It's just to create a mood so that we have a sense of what the background treatment is like. Okay. So we need to do that next. That's part of week 4. We also need reference boards. The reference boards are like a shortlist. Typically, animators, our shortlist is our storyboard. Our storyboard panels, that is our shortlist. However, the shortlists can be referenced. They can be. Many animators like to work out of their mind, like imagine things and research and imagine and then draw. That's fine. But it's not a bad idea to have a reference shortlist so that we can use that to guide our thinking. It's not a bad idea. So, two things: we need a mood board so that we can get a sense of the environment that we're in, and we said we will immerse people in the problem, and of course, at the end there's a solution. So the solution is the opposite of what we're immersing them in. So if we're immersing them in garbage, at the end we show them the opposite of garbage. All right. So those two. Then the next one becomes the reference board. And the reference board is like a mood board, but it's a mood board of shots. There we're concerned mostly with shots. So um, it's not so much that they have to be garbage shots. Not so much. It's just that they need to reflect the different views that we're thinking of. If we have ants' eye views, let's see what that looks like. If we have, let's say, you can say close-ups or extreme close-ups. Let's see how that looks like. All right, so we need to develop that so that we have the reference boards and we also have. I'd recommend for both of these that they're done online so that both Nicholas and Purity, you can both put in the different the mood board, the boards you want for your mood board, and also the boards that you want for your reference boards. You can put them in, and when you put them in, label them like reference board 1, reference board 2. Put a reference. You can even put a caption so that we can talk about it and refer to them in discussion. All right, and that becomes the precursor to the storyboard. So then comes the storyboard. So, but next week's deliverable, the main thing is the storyboard. That's absolutely central to the whole production, and the storyboard will feed off the script. So now the script, Nicholas will take us through it, and that will provide us with the basis for the storyboard. Are you ready? I can ask you to do it now.
Hello.
Yeah, I can hear you. Do
Okay, yeah. So I'll give you just a basic outline of what's going on in the script.
you want to project?
Yeah, just a text. Maybe I'd rather send you guys the link.
Okay, you'll drop
Mm,
it here.
yeah, okay. Give me a second. Anyway, as I grab the link,
Yeah.
basically the changes that are being made are just to make the story more interesting. That's so that as we put in what the client may need,
Mhm.
we still observe the conventions of telling a good story.
All right.
And basically, so the main purpose of the first episode will be the focus will be to establishing the area. So that's establishing the characters, establishing the environment, the dump site, and all of those things so that we get the audience understanding the setting right away. Mm, okay, I'm just trying to get the link. Hello?
Yes, hello.
Okay, I'm just trying to send the link to you
Okay,
right now.
no problem.
Okay, sorry. I don't know. It's just sent a number.
Hi, bro. I'll send you the email at 7:40 p.m. after I'm done with.
Hello? Okay, so I've been able to send the link.
Yeah, I can see it.
Don't worry. Yeah, the number I sent was a mistake. Just ignore that.
All right, let me open it.
Okay. So, yeah, so while doing the script, I maintained the basic three act structure of the original script. So then that means the first act is focused on introducing us to the three characters, which are the sister and the two brothers. That's Shiro and her brothers. Shiro being our protagonist. And then from there, we move on to the second act, where we're now introduced to the ants. However, the main change between this one and the first script is the introduction to the ants happens through only one brother, and only one brother is able to communicate with the ants, and it'll kind of be a recurring theme with his character throughout the season. So as the movie continues, he will be the one who has this sort of link to the environment and to necessarily creatures. He'll be able to talk and speak to creatures and hear them. So we introduce this in the second act. So in the first act, it's really to get to know our protagonist, who is Shiro and her two brothers. And the second act introduces us to the aunt through the middle brother, who is Kolo. So in the second act, towards the end of the second act, we now get to meet the father, who's going to be a character in the film, however, in animation, sorry. However, will have a distant role. He'll almost not be present throughout, but he will be then play a role, essentially, though, as an absentee father. In the third act, we then introduce in our antagonist who will grow as it goes. But in this sense, for the purpose of this episode, it'll be the Kanjo workers, and we get sort of a taste of them. However, we don't fully get to interact with them yet. It just sort of raises questions, and where they're just there sort of in the first episode, and we get to know more about them in the second episode as it progresses. The idea is to use this first episode as establishing. So we'll be establishing a lot of the characters, getting to know them, getting to get a feel of them, getting to sort of create judgments as the audience about who they are and what we think about them, whether we like or dislike them, agree with them, and such things. We'll also be creating foundation for some of the things that will be happening later, so that the audience will later on be able to understand and relate with the characters. So the main changes would be in Act 2 and Act 3, and really about how the father interacts with them and how the brother Kolo relates with the aunts. So that's where we are right now with the script. There's still room to change and modify it depending on any changes that may be seen or even that the client may have. However, then the aim is to have the first episode to draw in people and be really an establishing. sort of get to know the characters. Despite the fact that there is one character who we've not yet introduced in this first episode, he'll be introduced in the second episode and is intended to be one of the main characters on the side of the protagonist, sort of like her team of people who help her get to her goal. So we will introduce him in the second one. However, everyone else is sort of introduced in the first episode apart from him.
All right. This I can't seem to see anything on this. How do I navigate this thing?
The script.
Yeah, it's blank. Can you see what I'm projecting?
Okay. When you go to the link, it's taken you to Celtex.
Yeah. So this is it. Should I press it again? Maybe. Let me press it again. And can you see what I'm projecting?
Yes, I can see what you projected.
Oh, it wants me to log in again. Yeah, it's blank, so I have to maybe refresh. Let me try that.
Okay. As an alternative, maybe just drop me your email, then I'll share it to you through Celtex, then to give you a prompt to your email.
Okay.
That's another option.
But this is not the document then. I'm just checking it out here.
It shouldn't be blank. It's
This one's blank, yeah.
yeah. And saying my project, it should have given you the name there, Guardians of Garbage.
Okay. So let me type here. Yeah.
Okay. As I send you the email, do you have any feedback based on what I was saying?
Yeah, Purity, if you have feedback, feel free to give some feedback.
Or even questions are fine.
Yeah. My own feedback is like this. The storyline in general, the way you've said it is okay. But it's very general. It's not specific enough for us to understand how the message will be carried. But based on what the script is showing when you read it, um, we, basically what we need are opportunities where we can carry the message. And the first opportunity is presented when is it Kolo meets with the ants. When he meets with the ants now start to inform him and enlighten him on how they manage garbage. So some important messages. One is it's collective effort. That needs to come out in terms of messaging. Number two is that you need to have a discipline around it, which means everybody has to do things in a certain way. Number three, garbage or littering is controlled using you can color codes. So things are thrown into containers that are color coded. That's part of the messaging. Number four is that again, people who don't do that need to be sensitized that they need to do that. It's part of the activism that some people do it, some people feel they shouldn't do it for some reason and they don't. So those ones need to be sensitized that this needs to be done. So those are four, important messages that will support the client's educational requirements. Meets the educational requirements for this episode, and they will be quite happy to see that that is being passed through. It must be passed through as edutainment, which means it's interesting enough for people to watch, not like an infomercial, but more as something entertaining and interesting. So it's done in a creative way. That's what we need to come out of our drama. Once it's with the Kolo, and is it Kolo or the other guy in Joro? But let's say it's Kolo. He passes that information then to his siblings, and then it escalates into, you can say, the family. So the escalation is important in terms of messaging because there's a part of this whole thing is to make the message granular, which means that it is broken down into its basic components, and then we build it up. So it starts off with one person, goes to another person. You can say a set like his siblings would represent another a group, and that will escalate to a larger group, let's say the family, and then to the neighbors, for example. So the escalations within this episode, there should be an element of escalation of the message. Again, all done in a way that is carried by the entertainment of the story, all right, and the visuals. It's a visual story, so that should all be encapsulated. Yeah, so in some ways, that's missing in terms of what you articulated, but I saw it in the story, so I'm not complaining about it. I'm just saying that's my critique, that it didn't come out in this presentation, but it's there in the actual written document. Um, yeah, and then the introduction of characters is necessary for our own story, so that's fair enough, I think. Even the context. Yeah, so we've got to have, so this thing of the views, we have ant's eye views, and we have, you can argue bird's eye views. The human eye view is going to be a bird's eye view from an ant's perspective. And the ant's eye view will be the reverse. To what extent we use them, it's up to us. There's a comic associated with this production, which is more about the ant's eye view. But this production, the animation, is more about the human's eye view, which is a bird's eye view in relation to the ants. You see the difference? So when we're down to the ants, it's like they're humans. So we're looking at them from a human eye view if we want to do that. But when we're looking down on them, because we're bigger than them, it's a bird's eye view. So we don't have much of the ant's eye view now because we don't want to emphasize that. But it's emphasized in the comic because the comic is called an ant's eye view. It's called that. And it's the same story, but from the ant's perspective. All right. So we'll come, that's a different project. But this one, yeah, I just wanted us to be clear on the views because we're moving on to that next when we're doing the reference boards and when we're doing the storyboards. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, then that's fine.
Hmm.
If I may ask, can you please expand on what you were saying about color coded garbage,
Yeah.
throwing garbage in color coded bins? Because I never understood that even from before.
Yeah.
Maybe if you can just expand on that a bit.
Well, that is something that is universally agreed, which I don't even know what the agreement is. But what it is in general, in principle, is that when you're discarding garbage, it's agreed that the blue bins, you put in them the plastics, for example, or is it no? The blue bins get the plastics, I think, and then the green bins get the um, organic stuff. Stuff like um, let's say let's say breadcrumbs, or you might have food leftovers. So that's organic. So all that goes in the green bins. All the plastics go into the blue bins. Then there are the black bins, which get all the hard stuff like glass or anything that is being discarded that's not a plastic and not organic, like that. So, but you see, I don't have the exact thing. I'll get it. It's online, so I'll just get it and then I'll share it so that you
I
have it.
understand. Sorry, maybe I asked the question wrong. What I meant to ask is, are we incorporating that system into our first episode?
Yeah, the first episode must be carrying the main message. The main message is about littering. And because this is not pure entertainment, it's also got an educational component. So we're front loading the message. In other words, it needs to be in the first episode. First episode is also critical because a large part of the funding for the entire series is in the first message, in the first episode. So the client would be happy to fund it when they see the message front loaded. In other words, they would not, it'll be a difficult sell to the client to backload it, to now say that the main message comes out in terms of messaging, not in terms of our story. Our story can go the way it wants, but yeah. So we have Nelly joining us for a minute. Let her come in. Yeah. So my advice is to put it there. Yes, to some extent, we can't leave it out, and it needs to be on point because we are also cueing the audience and telling them that this is the thrust of what we're going to be doing here. We don't want to not be direct about it, is what I'm saying. Okay.
Okay, that's fine. Maybe what I can ask then is, if you can send me that information that you do have, even if it's on email, about the dustbins and which ones go where necessarily, because I did not see it necessarily in the first draft.
Yeah,
Then I
I'll
can
check that.
work it into the. I can then work it into the third act.
Okay, I'll do that. Remember, in terms of constructive alignment, so number one is the educational information. That's now what you're talking about. Number two is the activism. So, so even the ants also impart information about activism, that we need to make sure other people around us are doing the same thing. All right, so you need to work that in as well. And then number three is packing. I think packing is in the story, but you can bring it out properly. That you there's a way in which garbage must be not just thrown. You need to organize it in a way that you before you throw it. It's that element of being sensitive to know that if I'm going to throw this as garbage, then I need to pack it as garbage. Sometimes packing is just that you empty out a plastic container that has things that need to go into another bin. So you empty those things out and then you put the plastic into the plastic container and the other stuff into the other bin. So it's just this kind of sensitization, but it's coming. I'll give you the information on that. But these three things would now align with the client's expectation. So we want to achieve this alignment. Okay.
Okay, so that's fine.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, so I think that's it. So, Nelly, on your side, are you, not Nelly, sorry, Purity, are you able to comment or share with us something? You have any comment?
Uh, I did have a question.
Mm.
The brief he's giving, is it the new script? Because I'm yet to see that.
Yeah, that's the new script. The new script is just a version, so it's like an enhancement on the previous one. It's something like that. But I think he'll send on email. So, Nicholas, you'll send it on email, then I'll share with Purity.
Yes, I'll get to sending it. I'm just trying to work out the link situation right now, and then I'll share it.
Yeah. Okay. Um, any other question, Purity?
No, I don't have any.
And do you have something to show us?
Uh, for me, I did try to work on the characters,
Okay.
the 5 of them. As we had talked about last time, I just did the basic appearance because the wardrobe is the same. But I did collect some of the links of the items or wardrobe I think would like fit some of the characters. I share that afterwards.
Mhm.
So let me try and share.
Okay.
Uh, can you see my screen?
Yeah, we can.
Okay. Last time I did a trial on this first character, who was supposed to be Shiro.
Okay.
I did assume he was like the oldest because I didn't get like the age gaps. So yeah, I don't know how.
Yeah, let's take her to be, let's say, 21. Oh, no, no, hold on. 23. She is the oldest, I think. She is. And then Njoro, who's younger than her, is 21. And then Kolo, who is younger still, is now like 19. So
Okay.
that can be the age range we're working with here.
Okay, so this I did for Shiro, and then you have like a full picture of her. This was a render, just basic.
Hmm.
And then there's Kolo. would assume it kind of does match with his age. You said 19. Yeah, I think so. So there's Colo, I mean. And then there's Joro. A minute. And then we did have Juma, the dad.
But Joro,
For him,
have you shown us Joro? Was that the guy we just saw there?
this one with the green shirt.
Oh, I see.
The only thing I did was just change the colors of the shirts because it's just the same.
Okay.
Yeah. And then there's this guy, Juma, I think. I also didn't know the age gap, but I'd assume probably around 40 or something.
Yeah, add 25 years to 25 to the eldest. So if she's 23, he'd be like 48. So 45 to 48, something like that.
Okay.
All right.
I'm not sure if this picture is going to kind of does seem young.
Okay.
He isn't 40 something.
Sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's Neon, the second person to Mr. Munga. This guy.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And then there is the last person. Yeah, this guy. Munga.
Okay, that's Munga. All right.
So I just did them basic because I wasn't sure on some of the things. And then that was it.
Okay. Yeah, so I think they look Kenyan, by the way, so that to me is acceptable. Nicholas, do you have any comments on this?
They quite look okay. I would say though, I think isn't Gerard 19 or is he younger? I thought he'd be a younger character.
Yeah, but not younger than 18. He can be 18.
Okay.
Mm.
Okay.
The
It's
reason
quite
we need everyone to be above everyone's an adult here, actually, even though we're targeting people who are younger than 18. Yeah, go ahead. What were you saying?
In this new story, we have Njoro. Who is the youngest? Is it Njoro Collins?
Yeah, who is the younger one there?
Yeah, so I went based on the first one. So based on the first one, it's the same. So that's the oldest is Shiro, and the youngest is Njoro, and Kolo is in the middle.
So who's the one who dies? You said one dies in episode 2 or 3.
That's Njoro.
So and you said Joro is the youngest.
Yeah, he's the youngest, and Kolo is in the middle. He's the second born, and then the first born is Shiro.
Is that the order you've done them? Everything?
For me, I did it the other way around.
But you can change the names anyway.
Yeah, I can just change. Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. So the thing I was comment on is wardrobe. Wardrobe, all that wardrobe needs to change. Yeah. These guys are chokoras. That's what Nicholas is saying, which is okay. So you need to think of a chokora wardrobe, how that's going to look. And you need to introduce, I think, the difference between them in the wardrobe. All right. That's something you can do, Purity?
We talked of it last time.
Yeah.
The only basic wardrobe that does Street gives is just that one for the.
Oh, I see.
What is it called? For those characters. But I did assemble some. You told me to look for links for the clothes that I thought would fit the characters. So I did look, through some.
You'll send me that so that I can see what to do. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Then the next one is the poses. So we need the character models. So we need the front view, side view, and three-quarter view, straight for each one of them. And let there be a difference. For example, in the anatomy of the Shiro from the anatomy of the men. So we have that difference. We want to be able to tell Shiro through her silhouette. All of them should pass a silhouette test, especially the siblings. They by looking at them, their silhouette, we should know this is Joro, this is Kolo, and this is Shiro. All right, because they're the main characters. I like the Munga because he would pass the silhouette test already. He looks very heavy set, so that's fine, and he looks very different. Um, the other thing then is to give them some. I noticed they're all barefoot is okay, but regardless, use some references for chokoras so that whatever you see there can inform the way you're laying them out, so that we reflect the reality of the chokora. Okay, but we'll check out. I'll check out what you sent me in the links. Yeah, so that's good. I think
Okay.
you've got the set of characters, so it's fine. Do you have any background characters? Also think of some background characters. You might need a few, like two of them, some male and female, because the story right now is heavy on male. There's not enough females, and so I'd like there to. So Nicholas, when you're doing the story, just see how to include females in it as well, because we only have one female character, and it doesn't then allow us to introduce group dynamics where females are concerned. And that opportunity shouldn't be lost. So just see if you can include a female character somewhere, at least more of them. Okay.
Okay, that's okay. I can look to introducing more female characters.
Yeah.
You will find that it's just the family alone that's really a lot of that has a lot of male characters in it.
Yeah.
That's why maybe you're feeling that way because we're really focusing on the family unit on
That's
this
right.
one.
Yeah. So you can introduce
Especially
maybe
as you move
background
on.
characters who I don't know how the treatment of that would be, but let's think about it. Yeah.
Okay, so that's something I can do.
All right.
So
Okay. So now the last part then is the next steps which we need to agree on. So Purity, if you send me the list that you have, what I'd like you to do is to work on what we discussed, which is the mood board. Try to have one for every scene. And we should have a sense of garbage in it, at least the setting of the problem. Then, number two, if you can have the um, reference board. And then, Nicholas, also you participate in making the mood board and the reference board. So, Purity, you put it up and share it as a Google Doc, and then I can invite Nicholas to the Google Doc so that he can also uh, contribute to both of them. So those are two Google Docs, one for the reference board, one for the mood board, and then of course we can shift and do the storyboard from there. But by next week, have a draft storyboard in place. The storyboard is, a storyboard. It's a short list with descriptions for each scene, for each panel, so that we get a sense of the flow visually. That's the a basic storyboard has the shots and those scene descriptions. Once you come in and start describing the angle, you start putting in the scene durations and cumulative time and all that. Then you now are fleshing out the final storyboard. But the very first storyboard which we need is the shortlist in the panels. Let them be numbered so that we can discuss them like 1, 2, 3, 4, like that, and then have a description of a sentence underneath it so that we know what that is about. The focus is not on completing the final because we need you to focus more on the story visually. So let the story come out visually. And if you do that successfully, then that's good because then it'll be an important discussion point, and then after that, we can finish it off. The following week after that, we'll do the sounds and the animatic. The following week after that. So if you can get this one going, that will be good. Use storyboarder. We don't need you to use your actual characters. Use storyboarder and you'll be okay. Another thing for presentation of your characters, I think a white background will bring them out better. I'm seeing them to be so dark, compared to the background. So maybe when you render them next, render them on a white background so that we can see the character a bit more clearly. Okay, is there any question you have on that one, Purity?
Okay, so you're working on like the poses this week, and then
Yeah, I need you to
board, then the reference board.
Yes. There are a number of things. So the poses, let's say the model sheet, front, three-quarter, side view for each character. Pose sheet, 3 poses for each character. Right now, the poses of these characters look a bit feminine, the men anyway, the boys. So you want to make them have poses that are consistent with their character, what we expect of them. Yeah, even the dad is posing a bit too hard. He needs to be more in action. You know how you'd see him in the real thing. So try to figure out your poses for the pose sheet according to their character that we want to bring out. Yeah, so that's one. So if you can do those poses, that's good for the characters. It will finish off that. Then you render them and then label them and it's done. And then do a mood board and a reference board. Reference board doesn't have to be done in detail. Like you can have 2 reference boards per act. I mean, and Nicholas can contribute to that. You don't have to do it in detail because the real reference board is the storyboard for us. So it's just a guide so that you have a sense of you've done some research, and that's the evidence of the research. That's the reference board. The one which would be more detailed would be the, let's say, mood board. And you can use cartoons, you can use real photos, whatever you feel you want to use, but just to have a sense of it. Because we're talking of chokoras. You see, you and I, and all of us who are Kenyan, or we all know what a chokora is, and we know how they live. But we all live in different parts of Nairobi, so again, we have different perspectives. So that reference, I mean, mood board brings our perspectives to the same thing. So we're all saying this is the one. These are the views we are talking about. Okay? And they can be photos. They don't have to be drawings. They can also be drawings if you want. And then finally, now you come to the storyboard. So the storyboard is absolutely key, and I'd like us to move to it, even if it's in a rough way. You don't have to completely finish it, but just do something so that next week when we meet, we're able to discuss the storyboard. That would be good. Even if you haven't finished the other work, but at least we see something on the storyboard, that's better because then we start a big conversation around the storyboard. Okay, you can feel free to comment on what I'm saying. You can ask anything. Are you there? It's gone quiet. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Are you saying something?
I'm good for now.
Okay.
Oh.
All right. Yeah, so that's it. I think that's just the main thing. After storyboard, then we go to sound, all the sounds, voiceovers, and of course the animatic. Okay. All right then. And you'll remember to send me the links so that I can also check those out.
Okay.
All right then. So thanks for coming. I'll go on to the next meeting with Nelly, and thanks for coming, Nicholas, also. We'll meet you at 8 o'clock again. Bye.
Okay, so
So, Nelly, are you still there?
Yes, I'm here.
All right. So let me stop this meeting and then we start your meeting. I had done a recording.